So I know many people, when they hear the words Dark Souls 2, they usually are sent into a wave of anger and disappointment. I completely understand where you're coming from, but recently I just put 40 hours into Dark Souls 2, beating it twice, and it's not that bad. Now I understand this was probably going to make you confused if you're a hater, but the thing is, Dark Souls 2 is not a bad video game. It has a lot of cool ideas, and it also has one of the greatest hubs in all the Souls games, in my opinion at least. However, I can't stress this enough that it is the worst Souls game I've ever played. The list for why this game is bad is longer than the list for why this game deserves more love. This game has gotten so much backlash for the terrible game design, hitboxes, poor mechanics, pointless areas, boring, underwhelming bosses, terrible enemy placement, attack stuns. I could go on and we'd be here all day listing every issue in great detail, but instead of just only shitting on the game, I'm also going to be giving my positive thoughts on the game and what I thought was done well. Now, I would recommend this game for people who believe they have lost all hope, because this game will make you feel even worse. But I would still say give the game a try, maybe after playing some of the other games. But again, it's a good game, but in my opinion, I think really what holds it back is the title, and it also just puts a stain on FromSoft's reputation, or whoever else made Dark Souls 2, but yeah, that's what I think. So, first off, I'll say this is the worst part of Dark Souls 2, the level design. It seems like they just checked back on Dark Souls 1 and said, hey, remember how we had like 4 enemies standing near that bridge, guarding players from reaching it? How about for this game, we double that? No, scratch that, triple it. Yeah, that'll give them something to appreciate. I don't really get what was going through the devs' minds. I mean, Horsefuck Valley forced me to seek therapy, and ever since, I still have PTSD on those fucking horses. That's not even what they actually are, I think. But that's why it's called Horsefuck Valley. Rumbacks are just as bad as Dark Souls 1, if not worse. And this is a classic complaint. When you're going through the fog gate, it takes a millennium to actually start moving through before you get hit by an enemy running like a track star at you. Luckily, this didn't happen to me much, and I knew if it were to happen to me, I wouldn't be making this review acting fairly cordial. And I also have a hot take. I don't actually think the Sir Alone runback is that bad. Yes, you have to kill tons of knights again and again before you actually reach him, but killing simple humanoid enemies like that isn't so difficult for someone who loves ultra great swords. It did get a bit repetitive, but I still thought the fight was worth getting to, and I liked the fight overall. I think it was decent. But just everything about level design in this game is just made to be more annoying than Dark Souls 1, and that's what I think on level design. Now, here's my tier list for all of the Dark Souls 2 fights. These rankings are purely based off of my experience of every fight, what I liked and disliked about each of them. Many of them are pretty weak, and that's why you see more bosses around C or D tier. For example, the Covetous Demon. He just sits in the room that you enter, and all you have to do is just go to the left or right of him, and just stay there constantly hitting him until he dies. Or the Rotten, which in my opinion looked cool, but turned out to be a pretty easy fight in my opinion. But I did like that there were lots of fights that were very experimental, like the Demon of Song or the Executioner's Chariot. I thought both were cool ideas, but neither were that memorable to me. Now that I'm thinking of it, I believe the list is missing Lud and Zaelin. You know, the fight in Horsefuck Valley. I actually like that fight more than Ava, which is the singular tiger. People call it a reskin, but I actually think the 2 tigers in the arena at once is cooler than 1 tiger that is invisible at first. That mission alone is just kind of boring and kind of miserable if you have trouble with the enemies. The runback definitely makes Lud and Zaelin, that fight, a bit lower, but I think it's a better fight in general than Ava. I think I'll put them, if I had to put him somewhere on the list, I'd put him at B tier. I think that's fair. Probably the bottom of B tier, yeah. But yeah, that's my ranking for the fights. Hate it or love it, I don't care. That's what I think. Honestly, for me, there wasn't a lot in this game that kept me angry throughout my playthrough. The only thing that I really didn't like is when certain enemies would run after you and just immediately attack you when you're trying to heal. That happens in Dark Souls 1, but at least, like, the coding is a bit worse, so the enemies would, like, actually have to, like, re-navigate. But if it's a straight line, the enemies are running at you so fast, and when you have an opportunity to heal, which is never, they just immediately hit you. It's the one thing that can make me mad at times because, you know, obviously it wasn't that bad in Dark Souls 1, but it was just made worse in this game for no reason. I believe the devs for this game just said they were going to triple anything that was annoying to the players from the first game, and just to watch the players' souls leave their bodies. But why, I'll never know. I would just say that I truly play these games for exploring and fighting bosses. Exploration in this game isn't that interesting, but the same areas are cool, like Iron Keep or Drang Lake, or even Shrine of Amana, which is nice. In terms of bosses, the game delivers a little. Many of the fights could have been made more interesting. It just feels like most of these bosses, after beating Lost Sinner, everything else just becomes a target dummy. But those target dummies can eventually kill you in 2 hits. It's an experimental title, and I get that. Probably it will always be referred to as an experimental title, but I still think it's a decent game to play. I think many people would like the game a little more if Dark Souls wasn't the title. That's just me, though. Something like Adventure to Drang Lake or The Undead Trials. I actually like that name. But anyways, that's my simple review of Dark Souls 2. Play at your own risk, and just make sure your parents aren't home to witness the horror you endure. But yeah, I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.